Alright, welcome back. So this is a short program I've written. We're going to add to it here. But this is a short program called numbers.c. It prompts the user for two integers, and right now it adds them and prints the result. It's going to do a little bit more in a minute. We have included stdio. We're going to use the printf function. We're also going to use the scanf function to get input from the user. I've got two function prototypes here that are obviously defined down lower. One is called getInt with prompt, and the other is sum. Here's main, and then I'm prompting, or I'm just saying, I'm going to get now two integers from the user. Int a equals getInt with prompt in her first integer, and int b is getInt with prompt in her second integer. And now I'm going to print the sum by calling the sum function. So I'll print out whatever a is plus whatever b is, and then the sum of a and b. Alright, so getInt with prompt is what wraps up our printf and scanf. It gets a char star, a pointer to a character array, or, in other words, a string, and that is called prompt in the function. And I'm going to set up a variable here, an integer called input, because I'm going to return that input here. So, first of all, we print out the prompt. Already know how to do that. Now, look at what we do with scanf. We have an integer, that's going to be the input. We use the same sort of format string, but here I'm going to scan in an integer, %d, and because it's an int and this match, I won't get an error. And here I'm passing a pointer to input, address of input, ampersand input, and then finally I return input. So this is really what I wanted to show you, wrapped up in a bigger program. So we're scanning for input, and then we return input, and then sum is really simple. We return an integer. Sum of int a and int b is return a plus b. So we can run this and see that it does work. We'll say make numbers, and there we go. It compiled okay, and then we'll do that, numbers, and enter first integer. Let's say 7, and then we'll say 46, and we get 7 plus 46 is 53. Yep, it is 53. So always check to make sure that these are right. Alright, so let's now multiply two integers. Well, that's pretty simple. We're going to need a function, let's say product. So really, when we call product, it's going to be the same as calling sum. So we can just, first of all, just say print the product. A comment is always good. And then we'll just copy this whole thing. And we'll do that, and we'll just instead name this function product. So product of a and b. Now we need to add the product function. So let's just say it returns an int. It's called product, and it takes an int a and an int b. And so we'll define it to be return a times b. No surprise there. And finally, this function won't run unless I give it a prototype. So let's put that here, semicolon, and there we go. So now we'll save it, and hopefully we'll get the sum and the product of two numbers. So we'll make the program and run it. Let's say 3 and 12. 3 plus 12 is 15, and I forgot to copy it right, but 3 plus 12 is 36. So let's just change that character. 3 times 12 it should be, and we'll run it again in a minute after we do the next thing. Third thing, let's just say that we want a function, and we can do this in any order, it really doesn't matter, but we want a function to find the greater, which is greater, a or b. So let's just say int, and we'll call this one max, int a, int b. So the maximum of int a, or the maximum of a or b. So again, we don't have to mess with our scanf. Scanf is working properly. We get two integers a and b. So let's just make a comment here, get the max, And again, we'll print if, and this time it will be the greatest of, %d, and %d is %d, new line, and then a, b, and max a of b, a or b. And then finally we'll define the max function, int max, int a, int b, and here we go. So now to find the maximum, we're going to need to do an if. We're going to need to check which of these two numbers is the max. So we can just simply say if a is greater than b. Now let's think about this for a minute. If a is greater than b, we do want to return a. So that's a one-liner. Return a. So we can just do that. Else, now if b is greater than a, then we return b. What happens if they're equal? We can still return b because the maximum is a or b. So we can just say else return b. And that's a maximum function, and it works for integers. So now let's just go ahead and run everything and make sure we got it all right. Make numbers. Hey, that looks good. We'll run it. So the first integer is 4, let's say. The second integer is 4, and the greatest of 4 and 4 is 4. One more time, let's do something else. Let's say 3 and 95, and 3 plus 95 is 98. 3 times 95 is 285, and the greatest of 3 is 3 and 95 is 95. And of course, you should run this one more time with the greater of the two numbers being the first number, but I'll leave that for you. Thank you very much.